It's getting into the early season, and that means hunting season's well underway or about to be in most locations. And we have a hurricane to deal with. Hurricane Francine is now coming up into the country, and start to look at some of the early states. And this is how I want to use the hurricane as an example of how it can affect deer hunting, and something you need to pay attention to as it pertains to just in the next couple weeks and what's going on with the weather, because you can use the weather to predict how to hunt. The problem is a lot of scientific studies look at absolutes. They look at it and say, okay, in end of November, this time of the year, in this location, if the temperature is 20 degrees, 25 degrees, then deer move. And you're not going to find any correlation to absolutes as far as they always move at this temperature, they always move during this barometric pressure, they always moved during this type of sky, bright sky, snow, rain. It's not about that. It's about change. You have to go backwards to look forward. And that's something that's really interesting and also pertains to this hurricane. And it also pertains to any weather forecast that you can apply to your own land and where you hunt public or private land going forward. That's how I shoot all my bucks. I base it purely on the weather and have for decades. And for those of you that say the weather doesn't affect deer movement, you're probably going by some study that shows absolutes like I talked about. But I want you to think of it in terms like this. When there's a blizzard happening, deer don't move for the most part. They can't get caught out in the open. If they are moving, it's to get somewhere and stop and not move and weather the storm. If it's super cold, they don't want to move because those conditions burn more energy. They're very efficient creatures. So a lot of times during super bitter cold temperatures, you'll see them more moving middle of the day than you will morning or afternoon, evening, right at dark or around dark, because they're conserving energy. They're moving when the sun's out, when it's warm. So they're very efficient creatures. But I ask, think about the times where deer don't move. They don't move typically. I'm not saying they don't move in the rain or thunder and lightning, but they don't move much during thunder and lightning. They don't move much when there's super high winds, when it's super windy, when it's super cold. When you have those extremities of weather, they're just not moving. And a lot of that's relative to change, and it depends on the area. That's why you can't take a look at a certain temperature and say they always move then, because a temperature that they might move on in West Virginia or a change might be different than an absolute temperature in Ohio at the same time frame, or Michigan, or the UP of Michigan. So you look at that difference, and there might be completely different temperatures, but the same conditions brought about those deer to move. And this hurricane is an example of that. What I'm looking for in most of my bucks that I've shot, if I look up Weather Underground, you look up our historical data, you can type in a certain month, and you can look and see what happened with the weather for that entire month by the day. It's on a chart. When I shoot my bucks, temperature's going down, wind speeds have gone down, and conditions of rain, snow, hail, sleet have moderated or stopped. When I'm shooting my deer, then it always evens out for a little bit. It might go back up, all these conditions. I'm shooting my deer right there. Not 2 days later when the barometric pressure is higher. I'm shooting it when the wind has subsided. Doesn't mean it's calm. It just means it's changed. You might have gone from 35 mile an hour gust down to 17 mile an hour gust, but there's been significant change. Temperature's gone down and it's bottomed out. The conditions have changed. So when that hurricane comes through, we happen to be hunting in Kentucky this weekend. And when those conditions go through, I think the forecast is for something like 3 a.m. in the morning, Friday to 6 p.m. in the afternoon, Hurricane Francis is going to go through. Season opened on the 7th. So this would be on the 13th. When that goes through and those thunderstorms and rain happen to clear out, hopefully Saturday morning, then you want to sit Saturday night, Sunday. Those are going to be some really, really good sits, and we can't wait. And that hurricane could affect a lot of states that open early, but Kentucky is one of them. So really pay attention to that, hunt on the back side of that, and look for good hunting conditions. And it's all about, too, not only do deer feel a difference in temperature, they get stressed out by the weather. They burn energy by being, they're very high-stress creatures. That burns energy. They need to replenish it. And when you have extremities of weather roll through, then they're not going out to quality feedings in high winds right out in the open. They're missing quality feedings. They're missing feeding opportunities. They have to feed 5 times in a 24-hour period. They're rhythmic pattern feeders. And when they miss that, they're hungry. When you add that to the rut, it just adding gasoline to the fire of the rut. It's amazing. That's when I shoot the majority of my bucks. But that applies for the entire season. Doesn't matter if it's early or later. And I'm even looking at Wisconsin, Minnesota. That temperature, as that hurricane comes this way, like through Kentucky, let's say, then it's pulling that weather down. And what it's happening is it's giving us a cold front. So that opening day of Wisconsin looks really good. And then it warms up into early next week. And then you look towards the 20th, 21st, 22nd, it's trending to another cold front of at least 10-degree drop. And I love to hunt those because if the temperature is dropping 8 to 10 degrees or more, there's something volatile that took place to get that temperature to drop. Usually high winds, some type of weather, hopefully some moisture. We could use some rain. But bottom line is those conditions are the same. It doesn't matter if it's a major hurricane blowing through, a blizzard. You hunt that backside, you're going to find success. And I'm looking at that forecast right here. And even Pennsylvania. Look at some of those early wildlife management units that allow hunting on September 21st. That's a bow season opener in some locations. Look for those weather conditions to take place. If the season opens the 21st and you're showing a temperature change, a big one on the 22nd, 23rd, and you can get out and hunt, then maybe consider hunting 2 or 3 days after that Saturday opener if you see that weather in the forecast. And it's trending to where you're starting to see some 60s pop in the forecast when you look out 10 days, 2 weeks from when we're filming this right now on September 11th. So that's how I'm navigating the early season. I start looking at the weather right now because we're going hunting in Kentucky. We have the opener in Minnesota and Wisconsin. So from about right now till sometime in January, I'm keeping an eye on the weather at all times. And if you don't feel like figuring this all out for yourself, check out HuntCast. Included the link in the description. I helped develop the algorithm for HuntCast. They infused it into HuntCast through HuntWise, and it's these same principles. This is the only app and weather hunting formula that goes backwards to predict forward. You have to have this level of moderation and then the drop. This is where you kill right there. If it's volatile like this every day, there's no apparent drop. So you're looking for consistency for 4 or 5 days, then it drops, then it's time to hit the woods. There's a lot going on over the next 2 weeks depending on if your state has an open bow season or not. I urge you to take advantage. And if you can take advantage of this hurricane going through, hopefully people are safe, hopefully you're safe. But if you are a big whitetail hunter and you want to hunt the best conditions, make sure you don't miss the backside of this hurricane, future thunderstorms, blizzards, whatever big weather events are coming your way. Make sure you hunt the backside, look for these drops in moderation, and you'll be on target for bucks all season long. You know, what a year it's been. I really appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much. I wanted to point out we still have our Earthway spreaders. We're always going to have those for sale on Pure Wildlife Blends, WHS. Great Christmas presents. Again, we're scheduling for clients right now. It seems early, but the season goes by early. Typically, between the 4 or 5 of us will go to properties, 5, including Wes, and then Joe, Kevin, Dylan, myself. Typically by the end of December, we're all booked up. I have about 300 properties across the country. So now is the time to book. Check out info at whitetailhabitatsolutions.com. Jesse will help you book your time. Also our web classes. This is a really big time where people are starting to purchase those web classes to help them with hills and thermals, hunting the rut, and then especially towards the end of December, we're getting into our how to design your whitetail property. A great alternative to actually having one of us out to the property. Boots on the ground are always better. Check out digital land management, which is something new we're working on. We'll continue to work on that. And then of course, we really appreciate all your support. We have more hats, more t-shirts on the site. The books are always there, and want to thank you. Thanks for checking us out, and appreciate you.